Some countries were born from revolutions, some through centuries of war and diplomacy, and some from a rusty metal platform in the middle of the sea. This is the story of Sealand, a self-proclaimed country located on an abandoned British seafort. Population, around 30. Territory, a floating hunk of steel. Military, 1 shotgun and a princely title. Founded in 1967 by a man named Roy Bates, a pirate radio broadcaster turned prince, Sealand has its own flag, its own currency, its own constitution, and yes, it's declared war, and survived a coup. Welcome to the micronation that literally floats between absurdity and sovereignty. This is the Principality of Sealand. In the swinging 1960s, the United Kingdom was experiencing a cultural revolution and a legal crackdown. Pirate radio stations were becoming wildly popular, broadcasting rock and pop music from ships and abandoned platforms just outside British waters. Among the rebel broadcasters was Roy Bates, a former British Army major and unapologetic opportunist. When his station, Radio Essex, was shut down by authorities, he didn't fold, he escalated. On September 2nd, 1967, Bates led his family and a small crew to seize Fort Ruffs, a World War II-era seafort located in the North Sea, roughly 6 miles off the coast of Suffolk. The structure had once defended Britain from Nazi aircraft. Now, it would become the capital of Bates's own country. He hoisted a flag, declared sovereignty, and named himself Prince Roy of Sealand. At first, it all seemed like a quirky publicity stunt. But Bates wasn't joking. He printed passports, composed a national anthem, and even drafted a constitution. This was no longer a protest. It was a principality. The declaration coincided with his wife Joan's birthday, and he gave her the title of Princess. Their children, Michael and Penelope, became the first official residents of Sealand. At the heart of Sealand's existence was a legal gray zone. In 1967, British territorial waters only extended 3 nautical miles from the coastline. Fort Ruffs sat just beyond that limit, meaning, in theory, the UK had no authority there. Bates and his legal advisors took full advantage of this. When a Royal Navy vessel entered Sealand's waters, Bates fired warning shots across the bow. He was arrested and charged with weapons offenses, but in the ensuing 1968 court case, the judge ruled that the fort was outside UK jurisdiction. Bates interpreted this not just as a legal technicality, but as de facto recognition of Sealand's sovereignty. It was a stretch, to say the least, but Bates was undeterred. He began to treat Sealand as a functioning state. A small economy grew around it, selling titles of nobility, issuing stamps and coins, and even engaging in diplomatic posturing. Later, in 1975, the Sealand officially declared a constitution and began offering noble titles such as Lord, Lady, Baron, and Count. It is now in der day, racing which can still be purchased online today. The strangest chapter in Sealand's bizarre history came in 1978. A group of German and Dutch businessmen, led by a man named Alexander Achenbach, attempted to buy Sealand to use it as a data haven and luxury resort. When negotiations broke down, the men returned with mercenaries and helicopters to seize control of the platform. They captured Prince Michael Bates, Roy's son, and declared a new regime. But Roy wasn't having it. In a daring counterattack, he and a team of loyalists launched a helicopter raid of their own, retaking Sealand and capturing the invaders. One of them, a German citizen, was held prisoner. The German government responded, not with military force, but with diplomacy. An official envoy was sent to negotiate the prisoner's release. Bates claimed this as a massive win. If a foreign government sent a diplomat, that must mean they acknowledged Sealand's legitimacy. The hostage was ultimately released after being convicted of treason under Sealand law and pardoned by the prince. Sealand has survived more than 5 decades of harsh weather, internal disputes, and corrosion, not just of metal, but of public interest. Today, the platform is largely uninhabited except for maintenance crews and the occasional visiting documentary team. Michael Bates, who inherited the princely title, oversees operations from the mainland. Sealand sells Baron and Lord titles through its website, maintains a symbolic currency, and once even tried to issue e-passports. There's a soccer team that competes internationally in Micronation tournaments, and a failed attempt was made to turn the platform into a digital data haven in 1999 through a startup called Haven Co. Due to internal politics and financial struggles, Haven Co. collapsed in 2003. In 2006, a fire broke out due to a generator failure, forcing an airlift evacuation and triggering new emergency agreements with British rescue services. Sealand also participates in international sports events like curling, long-distance running, mountain climbing, including placing their flag atop Everest, and even American football. Nearly all electricity is now sourced from wind and solar energy, and fresh water comes from rainfall, making Sealand surprisingly eco-friendly. Sealand might be small, but its story is anything but. It began as a joke, flirted with revolution, faced an armed coup, and even sparked diplomatic interaction. It's a reminder that the idea of nationhood is more fluid than we think. Can sovereignty be claimed simply by declaration? Does belief trump geography? Sealand forces us to ask these questions. And while legal scholars and world governments may scoff, the Bates family continues to fly their flag. They believe they are a nation. And belief, it turns out, is a powerful thing. In a world of rising nationalism, border disputes, and crumbling empires, perhaps Sealand is more than a quirky footnote. Perhaps it's a model, a miniature, rusting, sea-bound model of what it means to believe in something enough to make it real. Long may it float. And if you're feeling inspired, yes, you can become a Lord, Lady, or Baron of Sealand for just under £30. Just don't expect a seat at the UN yet.